Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Covent Garden in central London to Camberwell in south London. This route takes about 25 minutes to half an hour and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. It's a genuinely really nice ride, this one. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then make sure you subscribe to the channel because that's what we post here, just videos of safe cycle routes across London. So we're starting in Covent Garden and we're immediately going out onto a filtered street here. You can see there are these bollards and these carts placed on the end. That means that there's no through traffic on that street because it has nowhere to go and there's just people standing in the road because it's a quiet street. Then you turn right onto Wellington Street, and again this is another filtered street. It's got bollards at the end that you'll see in a second, so you're not really going to run into much traffic around here. There is a little bin lorry here which I'm just avoiding, but you won't normally see one of those. And you come out onto this junction here. This is what some highway engineers call a cheeky junction, and it just means that cars can't come out of it, and it's sending us immediately out here onto Waterloo Bridge. Now, if you've not been on Waterloo Bridge recently, you might think, why is he riding on Waterloo Bridge? This is not a quiet street. But it's actually just had a segregated or protected cycle lane put in. You can see here on the right, there's this crash barrier, which is keeping us separate from motor traffic. The cars will be coming up on the right there, you'll see in a second. And we've actually got this really nice wide lane, which, as you can see, the people in front of me are ably demonstrating, is enough for 3 cyclists to ride abreast, which is fantastic. So this is now a really useful crossing for cyclists, and you can also enjoy a brilliant view from it. I think it's got the best view of any bridge in London, actually. Now, there is a short stretch at the end of a segregated lane here where we're just in a bus lane, so you shouldn't actually run into any traffic, but it's only very short. And we're not going onto the IMAX roundabout there, we're actually turning left extremely sharply, actually a little bit too sharply for my liking, and then doing a hairpin back on ourselves. And this is going to take us onto a quiet service road round the back of the National Theatre there. That is that very cool Brutalist building on our left. And in no time at all we're going to be turning right onto a road called Cornwall Road, so that's just here. This street's probably a little bit too narrow because there's quite a lot of parking on it, and you never know, someone could pull out, so do be a little bit careful there. There's also a car park there, which is not the sort of thing you want to be cycling past because it does attract cars. Now we go on to the other end of Cornwall Road and it's actually a lot better, so I don't know if you saw, but we went through a no motor traffic sign and we're about to get to that bridge there. That's the bridge going into Waterloo East, and you can see we're going through some bollards here which are keeping the street quiet because it filters out the through motor traffic, so only cars can use that as a through route. Now we go up here and you can see the old Vic Theatre there, so that's the street. It's got quite a famous name, it's called The Cut. That's another road that's actually recently been had its through traffic taken out, but we're not going that way today. Anybody who's watched any of the videos on this channel to South East London, like Greenwich, Lewisham, might recognise this street we're on. It's Weather Street and it's the start of Quiet Way 1, which is a TfL route. We're not actually really going to be following Quiet Way 1 today. We're on it at the moment, but it won't last. But you can see here we're coming up to these cyclist level traffic lights which are there so you don't have to crane your neck and look up. And then we go through another no entry sign, cyclists only. Now if you look on the floor here, you'll see these 2 cords we're about to ride over. That's actually a vehicle counter, so they count. They're really smart actually. They have a little computer in an armoured box next to them, and with those 2 cords in the computer they can actually count what sort of vehicle and how many vehicles are going across them. And councils put them on routes, you see them particularly on cycle routes, to sort of judge how effective their interventions are. So like, is it increasing cycling, is it reducing motor traffic? And I would say that the person looking at that counter would probably feel quite good about what they've been doing. I'd say it's probably been quite successful on this route. You can see a lot of cyclists out and there's not really a lot of traffic for us either. This is probably a good time to say, by the way, that if you do find this video interesting, useful, or you just enjoy it, then do make sure you subscribe to the channel, because basically what it does is I post videos of routes like this and sort of showing you how to get across London safely. Now we're crossing this road here and we're going into Trinity Street, which quickly becomes Trinity Church Square. This is, I think, actually one of the most beautiful squares in London. In fact, I might even pick it as my favourite. Unfortunately, the garden in the middle is private access only, which I think is a bit silly. That should be opened up. Now, this is also a bit silly. It was apparently insisted upon by the residents of Trinity Church Square to just make it a little bit more difficult to cycle through. So if you're disabled or using an accessible cycle or a trike or something like that, sorry, they're making things a little bit more difficult for you. Now we're actually following here, we've actually started following a Transport for London signposted route. It's called Cycleway 17 and it's indicated on the road with C17. So you could actually follow this route for pretty much most of the rest of the way we're going, with a few exceptions at the end. But yeah, if you ever feel like you're going to get lost when you're cycling this route, just follow C17 after Trinity Church Square, and yeah, it'll be pretty easy to work out which way you need to go. It's pretty well signposted, I think. This is actually the first time that I'd ridden this route when I was making this video, and you'll see later I did make a very slight wrong turn, but overall it went pretty well. Now, you can see from the little blue sign here that this small stretch of pavement is actually shared space, and that's because it's letting us use that crossing to go over onto this cycle track on the New Kent Road. Weirdly, that bit of the track back there is really good. That one, the bit we just went over now, is a little bit dog-eared, but then this takes us through onto Rodney Place, and we're just going straight through here on this great protected track. Really, really big fan of this. It's a nice little piece of infrastructure. Although it does a little bit of a weird thing here. We can sort of go quite far out, and then it asks us to cross the road, and then we go back on ourselves. So I don't really know why it does that, but probably someone at the council thought it was a good idea. And you just follow it round. It's a little bit of a helter-skelter. But we're now on Brandon Street. This street is part of a low-traffic neighbourhood, and it's filtered. We're actually going behind, in a second we'll be going behind East Street Market in Walworth, if you know that area. That's a good market to sort of get, vegetables, fruit and veg, spices, that sort of stuff. Highly recommend a visit. That might even be, if you're thinking of riding this route for fun, that might even be a place to go if it's contingent with the current lockdown regulations when you're reading this, whatever they might be. And yeah, you can see there's not really any traffic on this route at all. It is fully filtered. And yeah, lots of people are making use of it. That's because it's a really direct, fast route between various bits of London. We sort of come from Elephant and we're heading towards Burgess Park, which is a nice part of town. But yeah, you can just really enjoy this. It's actually quite lovely, isn't it? You've got the whole carriageway to yourself, and yeah, you pass the occasional car, but there's not really anyone doing anything too crazy, mostly because the through traffic has been taken out of the route with filters at various points in the road. Now, we do join a protected lane here, and this is mostly for turning. And what you want to do is you want to go straight on, following those cycle traffic lights, by the way, and then turn right, and then we're going to turn left into Burgess Park. Now, it can be a little bit confusing to remember which path to take here, because they don't have names on or anything. But yeah, this is a lovely part to come through. It's actually quite a long park, but we're going across it, so we're only going to be in it for a short period of time, because it's narrow and long. And do remember that this bit of the route is shared with pedestrians, so make sure you go nice and slow on it and don't scare anybody by riding past them or anything like that. By the way, I should mention, because I always forget to do so, if you want a map of this route, then there's a sort of digital map of it you can download from a website called Komoot, and I'll put a link in the description for it. You can either use their app or you can just download the GPS files and use it on whatever app you prefer. The way to remember where to turn off, by the way, is where it gets wide and there's a C17 logo on the road there. It's out into Addington Square. But there are actually a couple of roads around here called Addington Square, because when they built the park, I think they actually cut it up. So don't rely on that being the right exit. What you really want to do is go past all this new development stuff with the balconies. That's probably the best way to remember it. It looks very orange. Now, we're actually in another low traffic neighbourhood called Brunswick Park, and yeah, there's actually a few different ways you could get to your destination here, because all the streets around here are quiet because of all the various point closures that the council's put in. But we are going to go this way, and make sure coming up you turn just before you get to these filters. Now, I was mesmerised by that beautiful filter, so I nearly rode through it, but I actually intended to turn down here, Elmington Road. And yeah, this is I think this is the most direct way, or at least the easiest way to remember through this low traffic neighbourhood, because you only go on down that one street and then you turn right down Elmington Road. And we're actually nearly there. You just go along here where the road is kind of gains a central reservation, and then look on the left for an entrance to a kind of new paved area, and then just cycle through here. This is shared with pedestrians, so make sure you are courteous. And then come out here, and we are here. This is actually the corner of Camberwell Green. So yeah, you can just sort of come in here, and yeah, we've actually arrived. This big junction here is the middle of Camberwell. So thank you very much to everyone for watching this. I hope you enjoyed that. I actually really liked filming this one. It was a really nice day, and I think the video looks pretty beautiful this time as well. So if you found that useful, then yeah, do hit subscribe on the channel. Make sure you like the video. It does help other people find it, and that's what we're after. And yeah, let me know what other routes you'd like to see, and look in the description below for the link to the map. Thanks very much, and see you next time.